Hey friends and family, hey fools, hey gardeners and magicians, alchemists, creators, participators. How you doing today? I'm feeling good, but I'm feeling tired, so yeah, I actually went and took a long 4-hour nap this morning. I woke up really super early and was feeling kind of wide awake, so I just decided, hey, this is the early nectar hours of the morning. I'll just get up and appreciate, yeah, rising before the sun, and yeah, letting my day unfold before me, and yeah, just enjoying what gets to be. So I woke up this morning, and I read the Crone, because that was a card that I had been drawn to when I consecrated my cards, my new deck. And yeah, I hadn't actually gotten that far to look into it. I've been kind of happy, silly busy, like not totally overwhelmed or swamped or anything, but I've had, yeah, like lots of little good things, yeah, that I've been just kind of focusing on and putting my energy into, and just a lot of it has to do with different happy things, joyful things, that we get to look forward to, that we're going to prepare for. So I have, yeah, some amazing family things unfolding. So my stepdaughter is getting married this weekend, and we just been, yeah, kind of preparing and getting all the details, like, you know, planned for that goodness, and excited, looking forward to a beautiful weekend. And yeah, just got like the last minute preparations and things to prepare for, and yeah, get ready for, to celebrate, yeah, their union and come together and be a witness, yeah, for this new life and this new love and union. So it's so great. And also really anticipating and excited for a new grandchild this year. Well, the very first grandchild, hopefully one of many. I can't just tell you how excited and thrilled I am about that, and happy for my daughter, who gets to experience being a mother. And it's just great. Like, so proud of her, and just in a space where I want to support her in everything that she chooses and that she needs for her well-being. And I also, yeah, I want to be able to offer, yeah, my own wisdom and insights from my own experience, but give her the room also to choose and learn and grow, yeah, through this experience and this role, you know. And so it's really interesting time. And yeah, I just feel very full, and making this space in the room for all that wants to be known and grown and shown, to reveal and to feel and to heal, and just, yeah, to enjoy all this fun, all this magic, all the zeal. So just making the room for it all to be, and for it all to unfold naturally and respond in the ways that I can, and show up in all the ways that I'm able to, for me and we. Yeah, in service to the whole, in service to the family, in service to love, in service to life, in service to our integrity, all those good things. So there is a couple things I did want to continue with my continuity, my alchemy. And I shared yesterday a few things from things that I've been experiencing and receiving and looking into through my passions and my curiosities and my, yeah, desire to learn and understand everything. Yeah, just my intense, innate curiosity that leads me to so many things and back to me. It's so funny how it just does. Yeah. Come full circle. And so, yeah, the new Doublespeak, I've been enjoying this book that I've had on my shelf for a couple years. My dad gave it to me. um, along with like a whole lot of other books. He needed to make room and space. And so I inherited a lot of books, and I've also, yeah, received a lot of books this last month for my birthday, just asking, like, hey, I'd like that one, that one, that one, and that one. So I've had all these books and, yeah, all these streams, all these, yeah, magical messages coming through for me to receive and to share and to offer and to learn and to give. Yeah, to help me with my integration, my process of individuation, and knowing my own totality and honoring that for me, the wholeness and the fullness that I am, and extending that to all others, all other beings. And I love that, seeing people as powerful, seeing all of us as powerful. Yeah, that really does free up a lot of energy and space. And it does help me let go and embrace all that is from my perception, yeah, and from all that really is and all that will be and all that we can create and allow, to be and emanate, radiate. So there's a few books that, I got after listening to this podcast that I listened to a week and a half ago on Alpha Vedic, and they were interviewing or talking with Saul Luckman, and he had mentioned Albert Mindell and the Dreambody, and so I got a bunch of Dreambody books, and I got this one today, Dreambody. And it's really interesting because I did flip it open and to page 40 and 41. And today, it was talking about the Tibetan subtle body, the Chinese subtle body, some of the acupuncture points, the structure of the flow lines of the meridian system and the kundalini and the channels and the circuitry, the energetic circuitry. When balance is achieved, energy flows through a third circuit which ties in between the Ida and Pingala, the so-called Shushuma. And that was like something that I had been like curious about again and wrote about the other day. And so it was kind of fun to have this continuity at play and looking into all of these things and finding out more and more about the energy centers and about alchemy, like some of the things, it was like connecting those dots and filling in those gaps and things. And it's just like adding to, the knowledge that I so appreciate. So just as Jung sees the psyche as a collection of complexes, each possessing an energetic charge, luminosity, and consciousness, so we are now discovering a dream body picture consisting of energy vortices which possess archetypal experiences. In other words, the Jungian concept of the psyche may be applied, at least in part, to the dream body. The dream body is a collection of energetic vortices held together by the total personality. In subtle physiology, the energetic exchange between chakras is governed by the so-called tattwic tides, which follow astrological or planetary influences. In other words, the body states and fantasies appearing at any given moment are personal manifestations of the periodic Tao, the changing collective unconscious, the field in which we live. Chakra theory indicates that body states are connected with the environment. And so that ties a whole lot of things together for me. The idea of the synchronistic connection between the body and the universe is reflected in the early European theory of the body as a map of the universe. The human being is a mirror of the field around him, and the structure of this field at any moment is given by the constellation, the planets, or archetypes of the time. So, that's really interesting, and that's from pages 27 and 28, when he talks about the dream body as a chakra system. And it's so interesting because it does tie in all these things that I've been learning about and looking into, and just kind of questing. And it does, like, just astrology and the meridian systems and the body and dreams and memory and a map and navigating and being aware, becoming aware of these things and claiming our power and working with these forces and mastering our minds and all of those things. So it just like all connects for me. And that's just the beauty of it for me. And just, wow, I just so appreciate all of these traditions and all of the wisdom and all the expressions and all the opportunities and all the experiences. So to learn, to grow, to experience and be, and to know ourselves, and to set ourselves free, the liberation. Yeah. So here's to that change. Here's to those changes. And the change is happening. And the change is unfolding. And change, yeah. Change is the only constant. Yeah. Only nothing stays the same. So I just have a couple things. I flipped open my journal when I sat down and asked to just be guided in what's needed right now and what wants to be shared right now. So this entry is funny that it's August 17th, 2021. Now we're in September. I can't believe it. September of 2021. And so this is just like a little review, and I will continue into, a lot of the nuggets that I shared yesterday. And we'll see how that plays itself out and unfolds through my play. Yeah, through this play of being myself. Yeah, being willing anyways. Show up and be myself. So memory, remembering, reordering, recording, recoding, recalibrating, reforming, for me and we. Do, ra, mi, fa, sol, la, ti. Do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti. So thinking about the sound of music. Scales and spectrums, new connections, true reflections, love, affection, clarity, creative inspiration, intuition, receptivity, color, sound, light language, light codes, music, healing frequencies, astrodrama, play acting, ritual, and ceremony, healing modalities through creative play, creative ways of being in the world, but not of it, deepening intimacy, wider openings, softening, letting go, surrendering, receiving, offering, forgiving, living, being, one love through all we are and get to be, one love through unity and individuality. And then I have my things I wanted to kind of play with and create art with art, resin, paint, drawings, colors, singing, stories, poetry, group activities, participation, connection, reflection, direction, navigation through play and the creative imagination. Love always. Self-care, space, preparation, sharing, caring, being love, silence, willingness, creative and inspired actions, wake up and play. It's all love, okay? All this love for me and we. All this love for God and we. So talking it out and appreciating the silence and the space, the grace and the healing taking place, taking shape through this reordering and rearranging, rewiring and recording. Yes, to the mother and her heartbeat, to our true nature, our remembering, our discovery, our unveiling, and our recovery. Letting go, allowing all to unfold in divine timing and ordering, participating, co-creating, opening, softening, communicating, relating, applying, practicing, playing, giving, receiving, and being willing. Cooperating, in partnership, relationship, interconnectedness, making the room and clearing the space to move into the new with and through this love and grace. Faith and strength, kindness, generosity, trust, patience, and humility, joy, clarity, integrity, openness, happiness, hospitality, prosperity, fullness, gratitude, empathy, compassion, mercy, tolerance, peace, harmony, abundance, truth, and honoring. Love always, always. Connected, protected, reflected, projected, envisioned, imagined, embodied, manifested, nurtured, conceived, refined, and perfected, mastered, met, appreciated, directed, with impeccability. Experiencing free will and accountability, cause and effect, and personal responsibility, the relationship between. Yes, the love I get to choose for me. So, there's a few things that I was looking at the the beginning of this journal, which, yeah, was in the middle of August. And just had some questions and some things that I wanted to further understand or make peace with or just let go of. Just move into acceptance around. And so on the 18th, I wrote, "It may seem like a mad circus clown planet on the surface out there, but there are hidden depths and so much happening beneath the apparent or obvious appearance of things. Floods, earthquakes, fires, propaganda to the effing extreme. LOL, man, tragedy and comedy." So the ridiculous propos and mind control, narratives, programming, unraveling so many false images, characters, and stories, agendas. But it is up to others to see what they have chosen and what they choose, what they've chosen, and what they choose to believe. So listen to, dream and receive, experience and be, see and perceive, co-create reality, imagine. Yeah, the life I want to live for me. Interesting earth changes and happenings, detoxing, rising, ascending, breaking, collapsing, opening, birthing, something new, true, full, whole, for all of you. Dying to the old life and old ways, patterns, fear-based. Yeah, fear-based and scarcity, lack-based mentality, domination and control. Work with the creative forces in harmony for the whole. The true nature of our souls, naturally loving, being kind, generous, creative, curious, engaged through life, in play, at play. So what is possible? What is being offered? This is the 19th. What can I choose to show up for today? Play to lighten it up and lighten up the workload. It's not a separate thing, okay? Work and play go hand in hand. Love always. So chop wood and carry water. Wow, and yay, interesting thoughts, insights, and changes in attitude, perspective, and pattern direction and recognition. I wondered about people and why they or we are unable to see certain patterns we're playing into or being played through and unable to see the obvious fraud, the fuckery, the manipulation, the forked-tongued doublespeak, the contradictory beliefs, the hypocritical ideology, the propaganda programming, the cycle of blame, pain, suffering, the ways we have given our power away and surrender it to false authority. So it's the fears, distractions, attachments, projections that get in the way of true seeing, that lead to unskillful actions, then perpetuate pain, shame, and suffering, separation, blame, survival strategies, defending the ego and the false image, the wounded child, carried away by complexes, inner conflicts, chaotic aspects that take on a life of their own, through the lower ego, unconscious reacting, fawn, flight, fight, or freeze, problem, reaction, solution, ready-made. So I will look into where I may be blinding me. I'm willing to look deeper into my projections, manipulations, and fears, and where that may be blocking me from truly seeing me and we. Yeah, that's interesting. Yesterday, I was reading about the sage. Yeah, and that does have a message in there, because it was, look at your traditional reactions or responses to things that sometimes are so ingrained and so automatic, and yeah, just like our default settings that we don't even realize because it's like second nature, it's the patterns have been going that way for so long when it's just an automatic habit. Like, yeah, and sometimes like that's fine and that's okay because that's how we function in the world, but then sometimes those strategies or those things cease to work for us in the same ways, and they require a whole lot more energy to keep ourselves down or to keep ourselves stuck. It's like we're expending the same amount of energy or even more than if we were to be able to let go and free ourselves and extract ourselves from that pain. So it is interesting to look at, and that's what I've been looking into for me, for my, the love that I have for me and we, and my devotion to all that is she. she and we. And so, yeah, I have been looking into those things, and that's a perfect entry into the doublespeak things that I've been investigating. And just been, appreciating just learning some of these terms and some of these concepts that kind of do, creates a map of understanding in certain ways of, even though I have looked into it deeply, the mind control, especially in the last 10 years. Looked at a lot of things, went down a lot of rabbit holes, but I was careful and at certain points, because I know how draining it can be when you look into the abyss also looks into you. And so it's just like one of those things where I did go through a cycle of pain for a long time, where I just had to know and I had to understand certain things. So I did go through like many, many years of a dark night of the soul, looking into these things that were hidden in the shadows, like the darkest underbelly of the shadow, to understand this domination and control and these inverted systems that perpetuate these dysfunctional and disempowering patterns and keep us in that black hole of suffering and in that illusion of separation and pain, that body of pain, the fragmentary body of pain. And so sometimes I would go into like a black funk, and where I would just be obsessed and focusing on these terrible things that were happening in the shadows, and so-called conspiracy theories. And it's just business as usual, really, is what it is. And we're just so kind of stuck sometimes in survival strategy and our conveniences, and and our apathy, that we've just kind of brushed it away and ignored it and denied our own responsibility. And some of that has been through like certain manipulation through false mediums and the false image and the lower ego, and just addictions, distractions, projections, distortions, and all those things, like where we haven't been conscious, we haven't been aware of how we've been operating and how the world has been operating, or how we've allowed it to continue, and we keep feeding the beast, the beast system that contributes to tyranny, slavery. And so, obviously I've been freaking angry about it, because I felt helpless, like a helpless victim about it. Like, what can I do about this? And, throughout the years, I have looked at what can I really do? Like, if this hurts my heart that animals are, treated this way, or, abused and tortured and, certain things like that. Like, I've made certain choices in my own life, certain personal choices, because I can. Like, okay, I'm not going to buy from that company. Okay, I'm not going to shop at those stores. Like, and so that hasn't been anything new to me, like, to kind of, like, where do I want to put my energy, and what do I want to support, and what do I want to see in the world? Just to contribute. What do I want to contribute to this organization that, contributes so much harm to life and living beings and all of that? No, I don't. So what's my other choice? What are my other choices? And so I have done a lot with that over the last 20 plus years, where I do pay attention to those things and how ethical the company is. Like, right livelihood's really important to me as well, and that's why I couldn't work for a place that didn't share like my values. And that's why, I stayed out of, like, the corporate world for the most part. And also, like, that, it was just, like, this part of me that couldn't didn't want to be there in that. And so, the outsider is, like, one of my dominant archetypes, calling on that outsider to help me to survive. to help me survive here and eventually thrive. But yeah, it's interesting. It's an interesting, thing to look at, where I can see how I overcompensated for certain deficiencies or certain things in hindsight now as I'm maturing. Yeah. In and through my own ways, in and through my own phases and stages and cycles of growth, I can see what I have grown, where I have grown, how I have grown. Yeah. In all sorts of different ways. Yeah. Multidimensional, multi-layered ways. So it is pretty cool. And I do know the power of personal choice and personal responsibility for certain things. And yeah, there are certain things that we can do as individuals that do make a big difference, but it is like so much more powerful too if we make choices together as a collective and as a groups. It just reminds me of that quote, wherever two or more gather in my name, there I am also. And yeah, that's like so powerful. Like when we combine our focus and our energy and our intentions, like for the good of the whole, Yeah, I love that. So I'm telling new stories, authoring, sharing, channeling, embodying, surrendering, allowing, receiving. I am willing anyway. Listening, practicing, letting go, observing, and non-attachment. I don't know. The full attitude, being here, allowing the path to unfold, willing to show up and honor the whole, to be honest with myself, to manifest the manifold blessings for me, we, and she. Every being, wisdom, love, and generosity, giving, being, receiving, the giver-receiver is one. So we give what we receive, and we receive what we give and send out. We dose ourselves with poison, or we fill ourselves with love. Or maybe we are in a neutral place, observing the play in motion, playing itself, always out, always out. Breathing in, breathing out, all this love, let it out. Breathe it in, breathe it out, bring it in. And birthing it, bringing it forth, through and out. Bringing it in and anchoring down, the roots and the crown, the sky and the ground, the earth and the heavens, roots and the crown. Sun and parents, flexibility, creativity, envisioning, envisaging, emanating, and embodying. Are we the walk-ins? We're all walking each other home. Enjoy the journey and let go. So, a lot of things coming up for me, and tears of joy and tears of pain and tears of grief and tears of love and tears of bliss and gratitude and all of this. So I've been having memories coming in, memories from this life to show me certain things where certain psychic deaths occurred or certain psychic births occurred. So it is super interesting, and it does go along with the death and rebirth card that I drew a couple days ago with the sage, the crone, desire card. What was the other one? It will come to me. The sage, the father, the desire card, the crone, all those things, which is, really fun, like to see in certain ways how it is like a mirror and how there's like a new map and a new story to navigate with. Stories coming in and memories and all this continuity. So we've been looking at shame and healthy shame and manipulation and that unconscious manipulation, or those learned strategies like that are so ingrained that we don't even know that we're doing them. And so I got to look at those dynamics last year and really restructure some of my relationships, and starting with the relationship that I have with myself and the relationship that I have with God, the relationship that I have with love, with source, with with all, with the unknowable, and so it is so interesting too. We'll see what else wants to be shared, expressed around that. So memories around healthy shame and unhealthy shame and pain, and confronting pain, avoiding pain, and choosing pain, recycling pain. And pain is a constant companion. Pain is the adversary. Pain is a teacher. Pain is a drain. Pain is an overlay. Pain is a doorway. Pain is an obstacle. Pain is a mirror. Pain is comfortably familiar. Pain is a crutch. Pain is an addiction. Pain is a distortion. Pain is a catalyst. Pain is a curse, and pain is a gift. Pain as a legit part of the whole experience. But now I am choosing. But am I choosing? Yes, am I choosing to suffer and create more of the same through reinforcing it unconsciously or semi-consciously or compulsively? Am I choosing to hold on to it? Or are we? Seeing into our programming. Are we seeing into our programming? The self-destructive blame, shame, pain games of suffering that keep us disempowered, perpetuating judge, victim, savior, saboteur, mentality, slavery games. Projection, blame, right and wrong distortions, energy leaks and drains, disempowering to keep us on the wheel of self-made, self-perpetuated suffering, rather than choosing to accept responsibility, the power that we have to change and take accountability for what we've chosen and how we've directed our energy. If we're constantly focused on the outside of we, pointing the finger at everyone else, then we are locked into a feedback loop, chasing and reinforcing our own tales of the virtuous victim and the damsel in distress, the rescuer, hero, savior, martyr, villain, scapegoat, jury, judge, and executioner stories. Tell yourself new stories and be the love you are. Face your own demons, angels, shadow, light, and power. Reclaim all that we are. Own your bullshit and power. Self-ownership for all the parts we've played. Authority, authorship, autonomy. Write your story. You're the star of your own play. So that was on August 30th. Memories about pain and self-destructive programming and a desire to confront my pain through self-harm. Which, yeah, that was interesting, remembering that and seeing that, yeah. So I've just gotten a lot of compliments on my tattoos lately, and people are like, wow, you're tough, aren't you? And I'm just like, it's no big thing. It's like, I don't mind to sit. Like, it's not like I enjoy it, but like, I can be with it. Like, I can sit with it. And that was always easy for me. Like, I'd just be sitting there, like, kind of filing my nails, getting my tattoo done, and people were like, how is that? Like, you know, and it was just like, yeah, it hurts, it stings a little, but like, I'm choosing this, and I know like what it's for, and it's for me, and it's like, it was kind of a rite of passage to go through, and it was something, yeah, that's been really like good for me, because every time I choose to get a piece of art like done, it has a beautiful, symbolic, absolute meaning for me, and it's really deep and profound for me, and it reminds me who I am. And so it's just like, yeah, I'm not resisting like the pain or the process of going through that experience. And so that kind of reminded me of like when I was a teenager, how I was trying to process certain pain that I wasn't able to express, and how I turned to self-mutilation and self-harm and cutting. And I kind of remembered those things, and it was like, oh, and I could see into something like, yeah, there was a part of me that knew, like, it was like that part of me that wanted to confront and reach into that pain to extract it, like, but I didn't really know, like, in certain ways, yeah, how it was kind of hurting me, but like, in a way, like, it was like my own soul, yeah, crying for help and asking me to confront that pain within myself. And it was easier to feel it physically than it was for me to feel it emotionally. But it was like a space that I was trying to get into to allow that pain to be felt and recognized and allowed, you know. So it was interesting, like certain things I'm not advocating, like hurting ourselves, but like there is something connected to that self-destructive programming that is ingrained into us and reinforced daily in certain subtle and obvious ways. So yeah, just wanted to offer that. And so through cutting into my left arm, and it was my left arm because I'm right-handed, I guess, or was trained to be right-handed. So it was interesting the things that I did carve into myself. like where, yeah, and it was kind of like, in a way, branding. But the first thing that I carved into my arm was like a little cross, and I just like, yeah, that's what I did. And the rest of it, like, I think I was really angry, and it was the only way that I could express my anger. But it was like I was turning it inward into myself. My rage turned inward, my depression and all of that, and my need to escape into drugs and alcohol, into things, into sex, into all those things that I thought would bring me pleasure, but they brought me more pain. So it was interesting that way as well. And so I do remember cutting myself and slashing myself from my wrist all the way up to my elbow in like kind of a ladder pattern, like where it was just these lines that went up. And I kept it to myself for a little while. But for some reason, I decided to go show my sister because I was like, look what I did. And I don't know what I expected at the time. I was 15. But her reaction wasn't like, something I anticipated, and maybe not the one that I was, hoping for. But she actually ended up going to tell on me and tell my dad that I was hurting myself. And my dad, of course, was really concerned with me. But I know that they were concerned for my well-being, but they kind of shamed me, and it was like a group shaming event that I got to go through at a therapy session where it was at this place called Benchmark in Bountiful, and had the family group sessions where all the kids that had been in treatment, inpatient in treatment there, they would come with their families, and we'd have group family therapy together, and there was probably about like 50 or more people there, and they decided to confront me about it and put me on the spot in front of everyone about why I shouldn't be doing that to myself, and all those things. And I know it was like, in a way, an attempt at using healthy shame to help me change, but it actually made me hide things a little more from everyone. And because it made me feel ashamed that I was doing it wrong, and that I was being judged for being horrible to myself or whatever. But that isn't like one of the most extreme cases of that, but it was just one memory flashback that came back in and reminded me of certain things. And but there was a few other stories that I could share as well, and we'll see what wants to be said about that. And so what was I trying to do? Slashing lines like a ladder or a scale of sorts up my left arm with an old, dull razor. What was I trying to cut out? Cut out the pain, trying to extract it through feeling into it, or choosing to experience it and consciously suffer, making it conscious by bringing it out and up to the surface through all the sorrow, grief, pain, and shame that I felt within and all around me. Trying to express the distress that I could not, or was not allowed to express and release. So was it an unconscious ritual? And so, that's partly why I sit so well for my tattoos. It was an outlet for the experience, or it was an experience that I got to choose and I've chosen to be present for. And it's not the sensation of pain that I choose to focus on. It's the rite of passage of the experience, and I know what its purpose is for. To get me back into my body. To help me. I don't know, like, exactly, but I'll ask for more clarity, and I'm willing to see more into it. But just kind of playing with the ideas and asking, for the wisdom to emerge. So, what was it with what it was, and to help me know, to help me express, like, the pain that I was feeling that just kept getting constantly repressed, oppressed, and depressed within me. I wanted to express it without judgment or resistance. I wanted to accept it and be present. Yes, and now I realize my capacity to hold space for myself and to feel everything I need to feel. To be with me as I feel all I feel. And that's my strength. So the pain that I wasn't fully allowed to feel, acknowledge, express, or articulate, to speak of, to bring out and illuminate, transform, work with, or appreciate, understand, recognize, and or integrate. So that's so interesting indeed. And so that's what I wrote yesterday about those things. And I did remember like some other things about how healthy shame has helped me realize like the person that I want to be and the person that I don't want to be. And one of those experiences was from when I was 12 years old, and I was at girls' camp. I was at a camp called Camp Foxtail in Nevada, and this is when me and my family lived in Las Vegas. And it was like my first like kind of trip that I got to go on alone without any of my sisters or my family. And I got to go take a drama, like drama classes and drama workshops with this group of people at girls' camp. And it wasn't actually a Mormon camp either. So it was, kind of fun and interesting. Yeah, and a good experience. And it was like a coming of age, and it was like a rite of passage. And I was starting to form like part of my personality and coming into myself. But it was like a time of confusion as well, because I started realizing that I had certain feelings, certain sexual desires and feelings and things, and I didn't quite understand them. And especially since there was so much shame around sex and sexuality in our bodies, and in the ways that I was raised in the dogma, that LDS doctrine and things. So it was interesting, and I've like met this really amazing older girl that I was kind of attracted to, and I really liked her, and I thought she was like quite amazing and quite beautiful, but I didn't quite understand like some of the feelings that I was having. But I knew that I liked this girl, and I wanted to be her friend, and I was like grateful, and feeling good that she liked me too. Like, we got along and everything. And so it was like pretty awesome. But there was this one little tag along girl who was kind of like really annoying. And she was like, I guess it was innocent and stuff. But in my like kind of, she just kind of felt like a third wheel, or just like that she was interfering with me and this other girl getting closer, even though it wasn't like, there wasn't, any ulterior motives at that time. I was way too naive and innocent. But there was certain things around that I can see like now in hindsight. I can understand it now, like some of the feelings that I was having. And so it was interesting. This girl would follow us around too, so obviously she was enamored with us. I just did something out of character, like, because I think I wanted to impress this other girl that I liked. And it just, it was kind of funny how it unfolded and how, like, what happened. But, this girl was really freaking annoying me. And all of a sudden, like, it just, like, was something I didn't even plan on doing. And it just felt like the right thing to do at the time. But I just turned around and I slapped her because she said something that I was like, you know what? You just need to go. And I'd never done that, like, to anybody, and, like, not even, like, to my sisters, or, but as soon as I did that, I just kind of regretted it, and I saw this, like, really pink hand mark on her face, and she just immediately, like, looked shocked like a deer in the headlights, and ran away and went and told someone, went and got one of the counselors, and I was just like, oh boy. And so, the awesome thing was these counselors were so beautiful, and it was all these younger women that actually were emotionally intelligent and handled it in the most beautiful, loving, and kind way. And it was like not just an individual lesson for me, but it was like a gift for the whole entire group. And they didn't make me feel bad. Like, obviously I felt sheepish, and I felt like I have to swallow this crow, eat this crow, like, kind of felt like ashamed of myself, but not in an unhealthy way. Like, I felt regret and remorse for my actions, like, that I let get away my feelings. I let those feelings get away from me or carry me away. And but that actually did bring me back like to like a cohesion, a coherence, and because of how loving they were about it, and how I don't even really remember exactly what it was, but they were like there was a couple of people and they all added their insights into like, yeah, getting along, or like, and being part of the group, and yeah, being responsible for ourselves and the energy, our emotions, and all of that. So I don't even remember exactly how they handled it, but I did remember how they made me feel, and the rest of the group as well. So they weren't like singling me out as like the bad guy or anything, like, but it was just an opportunity, like, oh, for like wisdom to be offered and received. And so that was like really beautiful to me. And you know, I can say again, like, that never happened again. Like, I was more mindful of my reactions to things and of my own power. And so, yeah, I was super grateful for that lesson at the age of 12. Yeah, at girls' camp, and it was so beautifully offered. And yeah, maybe, and I could have beat myself up for it, for being a terrible person, for just smacking some girl who wanted to hang out with us and be cool, you know. But yeah, it was actually like a really huge gift, and if that wouldn't have happened, all the other people in our group wouldn't have received that gift either. And so it was just like I was able to be that, you know, that character, and that play that part in the play, yeah, for that beauty and that magic and that, yeah, uh, that blessing to be received. And then there was another incident in junior high school when I was about 14 and a half. And it was after I had moved to Utah, to Farmington, Utah from Las Vegas. And I was trying to find my own tribe and my own, yeah, place, my own place of belonging in this place that was so different and foreign to me. And so, and it was like kind of the same thing, kind of targeting someone else, rejecting someone else, because our group will be better without her, will attract better people, or more, you know, like, I guess, popular, or acceptance, or some kind of thing. I don't know what my junior high mind, yeah, trying to fit in and trying to belong, and yeah, kind of learning these lessons um, because of the modeling that we have had, like putting other people down or making other people inferior to make ourselves superior or whatever, and trying to play that game, because that's the imitator, you know, and imitating what we see, monkey do, but not like, yeah, kind of having those conflicting messages too. Oh, be nice to people, but then there's these like underhanded games and this passive aggressiveness and this bipolar, hypocritical, yeah, schizophrenia going on, you know, in weird ways. So yeah, it's interesting, but yeah, I kind of said some unkind words, some unkind things to a girl who was in our group with us. And the most loving and kind friend in that group, she called me out on it, but she did it in such a nice way and in such a mature way, like way more mature. Like, and she was my same age, and it was just like, there was wisdom. Yeah, she carried some wisdom in her. Her parents, like, really did, you know, like, she'd already learned these things, you know, and I'm glad at that moment she was right there to help redirect me, to help me like choose something better, just to help me choose something more true for me and we. And so like I count those moments as like really profound moments in my development, and and the sense of identity, like, yeah, that was forming at that time. That was like a really important rite of passage, and an important time for me to receive those lessons, because it could have very well I could have very well gone the other way, where I could have decided, okay, there's payoffs to being a mean-spirited person, you know, like, where those times that I tried to be that, like, I was redirected in the most gentlest, like, loving, kind ways, and through like that healthy shame. Like, you don't want to do that to someone. How would you feel? That is not right. I'm sorry, but that's wrong. We all deserve love and patience and acceptance, and like just like the messages that were given to me and that I was able to receive and that I've been able to extend and share and teach with others, on the way. So I was so grateful for that, like remembering some of those things, like the lessons of healthy shame and unhealthy shame. And so I really do like see how sometimes we can be well-meaning, but we can drive people to choose more harmful behavior when we do use like that unhealthy guilt and shame. And so just looking into those things about how those are used and what kind of cycles those perpetuate. And so like the pain, blame, shame game, and how that keeps us on the wheel of suffering. And so we're kind of all turned around, sometimes because we don't say what we mean and we don't mean what we say. And so that brings me back to Doublespeak, and I want to share a few things that I wrote down yesterday. But like before, I keep just remembering what I was going through last year as I was looking at some of my relationships that had certain dynamics that were disempowering. And I took accountability for playing my part in them and reinforcing like the pain and the shame and the cycle, of all that. And the victim, judge, blame game. And so it had a lot to do with like the narcissistic traits that are kind of being programmed or have been programmed in certain ways, subtle and obvious ways. So the narcissist and the empath, or the narcissist and the codependent. And so I've been on both sides of that, and played both parts of that. So, but like definitely I've had more narcissists in my life than codependents. But I guess like there's the narcissist that is codependent, and that's why the narcissist plays those games. So it is interesting. Like I have seen some of those traits within myself and playing through certain relationships, and been able to accept that, like, oh, okay, I see where that comes from, and I see it's like an old generational pattern, an ancestral pattern, and cultural pattern, and societal pattern. And so I can look at it through the impersonal lens and not be so, that's hard to look at, It is hard to see sometimes in certain ways, but we can get out of our own way and look into it more deeply. And so I had been writing to a friend and about like kind of this dynamic, this narcissist codependent dynamic at play, and how it's been a good teacher for me. And I've seen certain patterns in certain relationships that did perpetuate the suffering and the cycle of pain, but they taught me so much about me and where I'd given my power away. And so I could see it so clearly on the outside of me, how it operates and everything, but I couldn't really see it when it got to me personally, because it was too close, way too close to home for me to be able to see, because obscured vision because of the agendas and my strategies that were in play and that were running me, carrying me away, taking myself away from me, from the whole of what I really needed in my well-being. Because of good intentions, and learned patternings to take care of others first, or to busy myself, to distract myself from looking into my own pain. And so I did feel guided to call it out with loving kindness and fierce compassion. And I knew that it was for me and we. So, and it was, but it was more for me. I felt it was something necessary that I needed to offer and express through my care of me and we. And so finding this closure has been so very challenging to feel like I've achieved it or to feel like it's complete. Although there is a sense of completion, I'm still surrendering, letting go, and letting it be. And only in freeing up the space and taking time for me, stepping back, stepping away from the situation, removing myself, from the situation and from the relationship. Only freeing up the space and taking time for me helped me see more deeply into the manipulation and deceitful, dysfunctional, and covert narcissistic games at play. And that's not just like through my personal relationships. That helped me see like the whole picture of it way more clearly and how it related to me and we. So it was way too close to home for me to see through the obvious, or what should have been obvious. What I felt should have been obvious. Guilt-based manipulation and ego flattery strategies. It's like I agreed a long time ago to suffer, like with those that were suffering. I agreed a long time ago to suffer with those who were suffering and stay small, safe, and comfortable. Like marrying the familiar monster and claiming it as my own, when it wasn't mine to fix, save, manage, hold, or carry. And there were so many projections and distortions to clear away to be able to see into me more deeply and remember my legitimate right to be all that I am and I need for me, all that I am and I get to be. Because I always believed if I just tried a little harder or I gave a little more, that everything would be okay and comfortable, for the time being. But it wasn't ever going to be enough, and it just kept me looping and looping. And we kept repeating the same cycles through trauma, bonding, and fear-based patterns of manipulation and control, and it was difficult to cut away and feel into that severing, because I did genuinely care for, these friends and family, but not enough to sacrifice myself as a martyr and go against myself, my love, and my own inner knowing. Death is such a hard thing to reconcile sometimes. The death of relationships, the loss of loved ones, collective upheaval, and personal devastation that all set the stage for change, transformation, and growth through these powerful and life-altering initiations. So many of my friends and family members are in the thick of their dark night of the soul right now, and I'm grateful to be here to hold space and witness our journey of our returning home to who we fully, truly are. We are all walking each other home, even if we need to be separate right now and go it seemingly alone. Yes, and so that's like what it's just a little bit of what I wrote last week that kind of goes along with certain streams and certain themes that I've been diving and immersing myself in, looking into. And so, now I will share a little bit. It just brings me back to the sage, though, the messages of the sage from yesterday, from Dreams of Gaia Tarot. And now I'll just want to go into like some of this doublespeak, because it's interesting to see how language is used and how the words that we do speak and the words that we do choose can help us reinforce these old programs or help us like change our internal attitudes and the way we see ourselves and our place in the world. So it is, that's very eye-opening. So some of the things that I learned in doublespeak were the differences between signs, symbols, and signals. And that was interesting. And I'm going to go into, that. So this is where I have it bookmarked on page 30. So, as Walter Lippmann noted, for the most part, we do not first see and then define, we define and then we see. Worf's theory is not that language determines what we can think, but that language influences what we routinely think. The language we use influences the way we categorize our experiences. Using our language is so natural, so common, so essential that we use it quite unaware of how it does affect the way we perceive and make meaning. This does not mean that we cannot engage in non-routine thinking, only that the established habits of our language both guide and promote the ways we typically perceive, think, and act. We tend to think in either-or terms, asking, is that good as opposed to bad? Is she attractive as opposed to unattractive? Is it difficult as opposed to easy? And so on. Our language encourages us to talk about the world in terms of polarities or opposites and not in terms of a stream of alternatives. Thus, we find ourselves debating such questions as, are taxes too high? Should we spend more on defense? Should Medicare be reduced? Is the Social Security Fund bankrupt? These questions require us to take a position. They do not encourage us to give a considered response that discusses the complexity and uncertainties of the issue. This either-orness of our language dominates our public discourse. Then there are these words we have available for labeling things. Consider, for example, family relationships. We don't give much thought to the words we use for the members of our family. We have the words uncle and aunt to distinguish between a male and female relative that stands in the same relation to us, while we have just the word cousin for a relative who could be either male or female. What if we had separate words for male cousin and female cousin? What if we, instead of just the words aunt and uncle, we had specific words to identify the aunt on the mother's side of the family as opposed to the aunt on the father's side? And what if we had words that distinguish between older and younger brothers and sisters? Of course, we could go on with any number of other classifications and create words for each new classification of relatives, but we see our family relationships in certain categories because our language predisposes us to classify our family relationship in these ways. While we can step outside these terms if we need to, my female cousin on my father's side, our language doesn't provide us with a ready word to express a different classification. Consider, however, the use of pronouns in Japanese. When speaking English, we use the same pronouns when addressing anyone. Our pronoun system doesn't make distinctions. However, in Japanese, every pronoun includes an explicit declaration of where the speaker stands on the social scale in relation to the person to whom the speaker is talking. English speakers who never gave any thought to a pronoun carrying such meaning usually struggle with this pronoun system when learning Japanese. I thought that was kind of interesting. And this goes into relativity and language. We may find Worf's theory attractive because it's very much in tune with fundamental scientific revolution of the 20th century, the theory of relativity. Einstein said that how we see the phenomena of the universe is relative to our point of observation. Worf said that our worldview is relative to the language we use. For Werner Heisenberg, distortion inheres in the very act of expressing an idea. What we observe is not nature itself, but nature exposed to our method of questioning. A famous study looked at just how our point of observation affects the world we see and experience. So it goes into a little study that researchers examined the reactions of a football game played between Dartmouth and Princeton. Suffice it to say that the game was a very rough game, prompting numerous articles about how dirty the game had been. But what caught the attention of the researchers was the totally opposite views of the game held by each side, which is kind of interesting and funny, considering, like, we can draw parallels to this time. So Dartmouth supporters charged the Princeton players with deliberately setting out to terrorize the Dartmouth players, while Princeton supporters made the same charge against the Dartmouth team. The researchers showed a film of the game to a carefully selected sample of students from each college who had not attended the game, then had them complete detailed questionnaires on the game and on their own backgrounds. Analyzing this information, the researchers concluded that there is no such thing as a game existing out there in its own right, which people merely observe. The game exists for a person and is experienced by him only insofar as certain happenings have significances in terms of his purpose. Out of all the occurrences going on in the environment, a person selects those that have some significance for him from his own egocentric position in the total matrix. So the students from Dartmouth saw the Princeton players engaging in unnecessary rough play, while the students from Princeton saw the opposite. Those two groups of students experienced different football games. These results aren't all that surprising. There is a large body of research that all arrives at the same conclusion. Our global evaluation, that is our overall evaluation of our experiences, is never objective but is influenced by a variety of factors, most of which we are unaware of. As two researchers conclude, the protestations of even the most virtuous and disinterested participants that they are capable of independent judgment should be considered suspect. The protestations of even the most virtuous and disinterested participants that they are capable of independent judgment should be considered suspect. So I thought that was interesting. Our language in our world. Each of us experiences the world in our own way from our own point of observation. And for each of us, the language we use reflects our perception of the world as we experience it. Our language reveals to others not the world as it is, but as we see it and how we experience it as individuals. I can call my coffee hot while my wife finds it scalding. The critic finds the movie boring and cliched while I find it funny and different. For some, it's aid to dependent children, while to others, it's welfare. I may complain about the billions of dollars in corporate welfare that others call subsidies or tax incentives. The words we use create the world in which we live, and with words we tell others what the world is as we experience it. And so, signs and symbols. Before we go any further, we need to clarify the important difference between signs and symbols. Too often we confuse the two terms, especially when we consider the symbolic function of language. While both signs and symbols communicate information, there are crucial differences between them. As we use the term here, a sign has a natural or intrinsic connection to that which it signifies. We usually take smoke to be a sign of fire, just as thunder is considered a sign of rain, and a fever is taken as a sign of an illness. Leave your fingerprints all over the gun, and the police will take it as a sign that you handled it. In these instances, there is a connection between the sign and the information the sign communicates. After all, smoke doesn't usually just appear out of nowhere. Thunder doesn't come rumbling across the sky on a bright, sunny day. Healthy people usually don't have a fever, and guns don't pick up fingerprints without being touched. So signs and what they signify, their meanings, are connected. However, there is no intrinsic or natural connection between the symbol and that for which it stands. The relationship between the symbol and its meaning is purely arbitrary. What any symbol stands for is determined by the people who use it. A red light means stop only because we have decided that's what a red light means. There is nothing inherent in the color red that says stop. Yeah, Old Glory is a symbol of the United States, yet there were many competitors for the honor of being a symbol of the United States, which that's interesting too, because of the symbol that we do use. The symbol that we see as our national flag is actually the war flag. It's not our actual flag. There's a civil peace flag that is more true, a true symbol, that we actually fly at our home. And so, if you're curious, look into the difference between the war flag and the civil peace flag and see how different the patterns on those flags are. Just out of curiosity, if you're curious, look into it and see when we started flying the war flag as like the national flag, the national symbol. So it's kind of interesting. So to me, it's like flying the peace flag because I'm at peace and we're at peace. We're at peace within ourselves. Flying the war flag, like that's an easy recognizable symbol, but nobody knows that it's the war flag. And so it's interesting how certain things get lost. Yeah, but they still are in our subconscious or unconscious. Yeah. So there is nothing inherent in the color red that means stop. Old Glory is a symbol of the U.S., yet there were many competitors for the honor of being a symbol of the U.S. Every 4th of July, my wife and I display two flags. One is the flag of the 13 colonies with 13 stars in a circle, while the other has a coiled rattlesnake and the words "Don't tread on me" embroidered in big letters. Both were symbols of this country. Both were carried into battle during the Revolutionary War. There were many other flags that at one time were symbols of this country, but there was no intrinsic connection between any of those flags and what they stood for. In fact, each 4th of July I have to explain to people what the rattlesnake flag stands for because they've never seen it and they don't know its meaning. Money is perhaps one of the most common symbols, and like any other symbol, it has meaning only because of our agreement to accept it as a symbol of value. There is nothing inherent in money that gives it value. Here's a short tale to illustrate the inherent value of money, as told to me by an uncle who remembers the time he thought he was very rich. Oh, so In the battle for Manila in 1944, artillery fire destroyed a bank building, including its vault, showering the area with money. My uncle, who was one of the many American soldiers fighting near the bank, described his joy as the sky was filled with clouds of fluttering bills. But as he and the other soldiers gathered up all the bills they could, their joy quickly turned to disappointment. The bills were Japanese occupation money, so the soldiers used it to make fire for heating their coffee. With the end of the Japanese occupation of the Philippines, the social agreement that gave the money value ceased to exist. So that's interesting. There is another difference between signs and symbols. Signs have a one-to-one relationship with their meaning, while symbols can have multiple meanings. We usually don't plan a picnic when we hear thunder rumbling across the sky, nor do we pronounce fit and healthy someone who has a temperature of 102 degrees. But ask people what the American flag symbolizes, what it means, and you'll get a lot of answers, all of them correct. The flag means America, freedom, bravery. Bravery of the men and women who fought and died to defend America, all the American virtues that any particular person finds important, and the list goes on. In other words, the flag means different things to different people. As a symbol, it has multiple meanings, not just one meaning. Words are symbols. Words are symbols, not signs. There is no natural intrinsic connection between the word and what it stands for, what it means, what we call its referent. A spade is not a spade unless we call it a spade. Pig does not mean pig because pigs are such dirty animals. Nor does a word like spit mean what it does because of how it sounds. Otherwise, what can we say about hospitable? Nor is there a right word for everything. Pigs are not called pigs because that's what they are. And that's the only word for them. Terrorists are called terrorists, not because that's what they are, but because someone has decided to call them that. Since words are symbols and not signs, words can and do have more than one meaning. In fact, the 500 most frequently used words in the English language have more than 14,000 meanings. A quick look at my desk dictionary reveals that the verb fix has 22 meanings listed, the verb see 33 meanings, and the noun light 18 meanings, the noun night 12 meanings, and the noun ship 5 meanings. In an unabridged dictionary, many more meanings are listed for each of these words. If words had only one meaning, we could pretty well eliminate all ambiguity from language. However, since each word in a sentence can have multiple meanings, we must sort out all those possible meanings to arrive at the one meaning that we think works. We do this every time we use language, and we're usually not even aware that we're doing it. Often we have to puzzle the meaning out of a group of words. What does the following telegram mean? Ship sails today. If you're expecting friends to return from a Caribbean cruise, you might head for the docks to greet them when their ship arrives. But if you're in the business of making sails for sailboats, you might fill the order and ship some new sails to the customer. Without context, we might not know what the words mean. We often run into this problem with newspaper headlines. Smith gets probation in guitar case. Requires a context to convey this message. And so, changing the meaning of symbols. Human beings love symbols. Making symbols is one of the things we do best, and we are constantly doing it. In addition to verbal symbols or words, we're continually creating nonverbal symbols. And just to make the whole symbol making process even more interesting, we often change the meaning of symbols. So, I just thought that was super interesting. That's from Doublespeak, pages 30 to 38 by William Lutz. That actually wasn't what I was going to share today, but that's just what got to be shared and what I really wanted to go into, but I feel like that was still important. How, we do, confuse certain things sometimes, and it is, it is a form of manipulation and mind control that sometimes that these words and these ideas and these symbols are used to influence the ways that we think, the ways that we see, the ways that we perceive, and the ways that we see ourselves and see our place in the world, because we're easier to control that way, in certain ways. And so, and we do so many things automatically that we're not even aware of we're doing it. So, how can we become more aware? And how can we change our perceptions when we become aware, that they're false perceptions? Or can we be open to considering other perspectives and to widening our own perceptions. And so, yeah, the book that I read yesterday about crucial conversations and some of those tips in there about how to talk with other people and to create that space, to create like a safe place for us to be able to share and to be able to understand each other or exchange ideas and communicate more effectively, because the stakes are high, you know? And so it's like this ambassador within me, wants to understand certain things. And of course, I've always wanted to understand other people. And so that's where the sage comes in again, like to help me understand certain things and to understand my own self and my own mind. And realize some of these little tricks and, these little ego tricks and these little tricks, mind tricks and mind traps that we've been programmed to accept and to agree to in a lot of ways. And so one of those ways that we do kind of confuse ourselves or cut ourselves off from opening to wider perspectives is the concept of abstracting. So I just want to share a little bit about that, and we'll see what else wants to come through and before we say bye. So it's abstracting from Doublespeak, stepping into the same river twice. The world is in a constant state of flux of change. We gave stability to this constantly changing world through our ability to recreate it by focusing on similarities. So, yes, it was stepping into the same river twice. And so the river thing keeps coming up. So it's impossible to stop into the same river twice, because the same river isn't the same river anymore in time, So the world is in a constant state of flux of change. We give stability to this constantly changing world through our ability to recreate it by focusing on similarities and ignoring differences. This process is called abstracting. And that's interesting too, because sometimes we do ignore certain differences and then we hyperfixate on other differences. And so that's like kind of, in a way, like our own little schizophrenic, inner child. So sometimes we recreate it by focusing on similarities and ignoring differences. This process is called abstracting. When we abstract, we select the information we will pay attention to while ignoring the rest, focusing on a limited amount of information that we then arrange into recognizable patterns. Abstracting is a continuous process that allows us to give stability to a very unstable world. The higher the level of abstraction, the more detail we leave out, the more we ignore differences, the more we concentrate on similarities, no matter how few or how tenuous those similarities might be. To reinforce our own stories or our own viewpoint. The words we use reveal the level of abstraction at which we are operating. The less abstract our language, the more concrete and specific we are, because we are using language that includes a lot of detail and refers to a very low level of abstraction. Language that is more concrete and specific creates pictures in the mind of the listener, pictures that should come as close as possible to the pictures in your mind. Highly abstract language is a common form of doublespeak, especially among politicians. Using a high level of abstraction is manipulative and misleading. That's my opinion. So such terms do not call to mind any specific picture because they are so far removed from the concrete reality they are supposed to symbolize. In fact, these terms do exactly what their creators want them to do. They create no picture at all in our minds, since that we're not sure what they mean. So this is an example, like where political correctness is used, and it's not even the same thing as what it used to be anymore, and it means something totally different. So sewage sludge becomes biosolids or organic biomass. So what kind of picture do you have when someone says sewage sludge versus organic biomass? That's very interesting. And so that's just like some of the notes that I took on abstracting, but I super appreciated there was a whole lot more about it that I may go into later. But then the next chapter, or this was in that same chapter, reports, inferences, and judgments. So that's how reports are like something that can be verified, like the sun is shining. You can look outside and you can see the sun shining. Yep, the sun's shining. Or it's raining. There's rain. We can verify. We smell and see and feel, and we can verify those things for ourselves. Reports. So reports is something that can be verified, but sometimes we take reports of reports, which are kind of like, we can go to the media and see that there's news reports. Someone's reporting some other report, and then we take it as that it can be verified without even thinking or going to check that it can be verified. So we can get into some trouble that way by just taking reports at face value or whatever. And then, so reports is a low level of abstraction. Report language is concrete and specific. We use language that reports. Reports are based on what we have directly seen, heard, felt, or experienced. Reports are pretty straightforward. We can verify reports and confirm them as accurate or confirm that they are accurate. We can look out the window and see the rain. Without giving it much thought, we accept reports of reports all the time. We follow roadmaps and our doctor's advice. We read books on science, math, history, and assume that the authors are giving us reliable information. We assume the authors are reliable. We assume the information is reliable. So that's kind of funny to me. Inferences. An inference is a statement about the unknown based on the known. It's a guess, sometimes an educated guess, sometimes a wild leap of logic. An inference starts with what is known or observed. Inference is based on your observations that we could call reports because they are verifiable. Inference can be a conclusion drawn from observations. It is possible, of course, that you are wrong in your inference. You can test these inferences through verification or observation. Some of them work and some of them are not so easily or quickly verifiable. Without inferences, we couldn't function in our everyday lives, and without inferences, our knowledge of the world would be greatly reduced. However, we have to be aware of our inferences because we can easily draw false inferences without knowing it. Yes, and there's a story in the book about teenage pregnancies. Drawing false inferences is sometimes called leaping or jumping to conclusions. And so that story in there about the pregnancies, the teenage pregnancies, there was a report on the news about such teenage pregnancies that, there's a problem with teenage pregnancies and teenage pregnancies have skyrocketed and there's more teenage pregnancies now than there ever have been or whatever. But that actually was a false report, and it was misleading, and but it did give the illusion of the fact that there are so many teenage pregnancies when actually there was a lot less than there had been decades ago. And so it's kind of interesting, how language is used to kind of influence or manipulate our thinking or the ways that we're perceiving or seeing things. And so that's just one example, and there's some good ones in that book. So now we move on to judgments. Often we move from inferences to a higher level of abstraction known as judgments. A judgment is an expression of our approval or our disapproval of what we are describing. In other words, judgments are nothing more than our personal opinions. We get into trouble when we confuse judgments with reports. Consider these sentences. The man lying in the street is unconscious. 2. The man lying in the street is drunk. 3. The man lying in the street is a bum. A judgment is a statement of an expression of the speaker's evaluation of the person or thing being discussed. So it's interesting, a judgment is a statement. And so, yeah, it's a mental state. It's a mental state. An expression of the speaker's evaluation of the person or thing being discussed. These statements say nothing about the people and things being discussed, but do reveal something of the speaker's values. Even if others agree with our judgments, we do not have a report, just a similarity of values. Unfortunately, we too often treat judgments as if they were reports or facts that are verifiable. A tale of faulty inferences. The tunnel, the slap, the kiss, and the clever Hungarian. There is another funny story in there that illustrates all of that. And so Abstracting is a fundamental and necessary process for dealing with our world. With it, we can construct a coherent world with which we can interact. But we must remember that we are constantly engaged in a highly selective process, that we are choosing to ignore large chunks of our world. While abstraction can help us in dealing with our environment, it can also get us into trouble if we forget that we are abstracting and start to treat our inferences and judgments as if they are descriptive statements of the world. So, yeah, I just thought some of those were interesting. Signal reaction. A signal reaction occurs when we identify the symbol with the thing for which it stands, when the word becomes the thing. A signal reaction means that we're acting without thinking. Signal reactions can lead to results that range from the tragic to the absurd. A signal reaction simply means that we have an automatic, unthinking response to a symbol, much like the famed reaction observed by Ivan Pavlov. Ring the bell and the dog salivates even when the food isn't there. And so the signal reactions. So signal reactions are used all the time with different phrases and different descriptions and different slogans. Different hashtags. It's meant to cause an unthinking reaction. It's meant to activate something within our unconscious and put us into a role, an identity, or an agenda, an attachment. Sometimes it's a knee-jerk reaction. And so that's why I'm looking at these things. The Sage card relates, look into and be aware of your automatic reactions or your traditional responses and reactions, your learned reactions or learned responses. To things, to certain things, to start to change those things and interrupt, those patterns. Become aware of how certain things can trigger us into certain mental states, and sometimes those states can bring clarity and sometimes those states can bring confusion, and it's all up to us to clear away the illusion. So to become aware of it. So, just a lot of stuff coming up this week, and alchemizing some things and sitting with some things and accepting, moving into acceptance around certain things, but still grieving and feeling a lot of pain around a lot of old hurts and resentments, old dynamics. But allowing that to be seen, recognized, and heard, and acknowledged, and worked with, played with, and met with love. And so there is this counterbalancing and balancing technique, because it has been really challenging lately for a lot of us. And so this is what I flipped open today from Astrology Alive, and it relates to many, many things that I'm working with. So counterbalancing Saturn with Jupiter. So let's begin with Saturn. Saturn is in a difficult aspect, tends to stimulate a state of consciousness that constricts and squeezes, creating limits to our movement and growth. This is the I can't state of consciousness that sees the worst, most negative and doubtful aspects of life. Because Saturn invokes a repressive energy, it can spawn a chronic state of inactivity, lethargy, and depression. In general, to counterbalance Saturn, move one chakra above to Jupiter. Live and act from the Jupiter state of being. Give yourself a gift of the Jupiter energies. Acknowledge the good in your life. What is harmonious, giving you reason for confidence and satisfaction? What are you blessing? What are your blessings? Look in the mirror and affirm the good in you, in your life. Use the affirmation every day, in every way, I am growing better and better, as a mantra. It worked for Anton Mesmer and his followers in the 19th century. Why not for us now? Write it on a paper and tape it to your bathroom mirror. See it, say it again and again during the day. Realign the mind. Look around you to find the sources of Jupiter energy at hand. Use them. Spend time with optimistic and supportive friends. Stay away from any chronic chronically negative ones. You don't need someone else's troubles right now. Ask yourself who around you makes you feel good. If a series of Saturn transits are approaching, start early to strengthen relationships with friends. They can help you through more difficult, lonely times. With Saturn, you may at times feel doubtful or lacking in confidence. If these feelings drag on, search your collection for Jupiterian music and play it loud until you remember how it feels to be fully self-assured. My own favorite for bringing about this mood shift is a set of rousing trumpet fanfares. Sometimes I'll plug in my Walkman and soak up those brassy melodies while striding about the house or through the neighborhood. Saturn begs for a dose of Jupiterian humor. Stop taking yourself and your problems so seriously. Tell a joke, read a funny book, go take a humor workshop, go out to a hilarious movie. Yeah, tickle your funny bone and help you laugh those Saturn blues away. Saturn cries me, and under its influence you are self-absorbed, even egocentric. You dwell on your problems, your failures, and your disappointments. Mea culpa, mea maxima culpa. Under Jupiter, you would have found it easy to be expansive, attentive to others, generous, but now is when you need it. Dispel Saturn's isolation by consciously and intentionally turning outward to do a good turn for someone else. Make an effort to serve. By extending outside yourself, you can break the intense me focus. As promised, here is a yogic technique for counterbalancing Saturn. The Om Namah Shivaya, Om Namah Shivaya, Om Namah Shivaya mantra. And so the pronunciation, O is long, A as in father, I is short. Shiva symbolizes the divine principle of death that dissolves and destroys all the imbalances and negativities within. The mantra can be translated as, O auspicious Lord, to you I bow. It is chanted repeatedly in a bubbly, brisk, joyful manner with alternate repetitions ending with first an upward lilt, then a downward inflection. Give this mantra a try. If the several thousand-year history of the chant, as well as my own experience, is any guide, you will feel lifted from the Saturnian depths by its use. So that's awesome. So looking at like all the good in our lives, what is good? What is harmonious? What are our blessings? What are we blessing right now? And what are the things that make us feel good? What contributes to our joy? What are we grateful for? And what can we invite into our lives that we appreciate? And what can we laugh about? And what can we let go of? How can we lighten it up for ourselves? And how can we be gentle and nurturing and giving to ourselves and help ourselves like through this compression, and into like this expansion. And so I thought that was really great. Those tips for counterbalancing and balancing. Kind of help us through this, through this process. And so there's one more card that came in, and it was flexible this week. Flexible. And so maybe I'll go into that next time, because that's awesome. Like, it's been coming up for the last month. Flexibility, and expect the unexpected. And so, and getting out of my own way and all of that. So thanks for showing up to play, and thanks for listening today. And I hope this blesses you, and I hope this serves you, and everything you're going through. Me sharing my experience, because that's why I'm offering it, just to show that we're not alone, and we're all going through like our own journey and dark night of the soul, but there is light at the end of the tunnel. And it is like just a continuous journey of meeting ourselves and becoming whole. Ascent and descent and return to ourselves, walking each other home. All right. I love y'all, and I wish you all well, and I wish you all the blessings and all the help that you need right now. And I'm proud of you, and I bless you, and I thank you, and I praise you, and I'm grateful for all of you right now. Thanks for being here, and thanks for playing your part, and thanks, for all that you are, and all you get to be, and all you've been, and all you will be. All right, love y'all. Let's see you for now, and bye. Take care.